Time for TSS Fantasy.
Yeah! Here we go!
It's time for TSS Fantasy.
It is Commissioner Cooper.
I could do a whole 49ers show right now.
Ready to rock out with my gavel out.
Oh yeah, baby!
Don't sleep on my Patriots, you know.
We're ready for football. Is that
Joe Burrow with his wrist? I'm curious.
I find you guilty of all charges.
Although you consistent force in this
I developed some really great
DJ Chuck Bass.
This guy has been doing it ever since coming off.
I hope you like the way I pimped
He's
you out.
only 4 targets in all 3 of the class.
Game for a touchdown this year.
You know, the great thing about being a football player is you don't have to take a shower to go to work.
There it is.
Ooh, we feel like I can smell it. The football right around the corner. Super excited. Let's get this AFC South handled tonight. Let's welcome in our guests first. Of course, let's go with the NFL royalty, ex-Gator, ex-Titan. It's Ben Troupe. Welcome to the studio, my friend.
Man, thanks for having me, Commissioner. Looking forward to break down my that two-tone blue. I don't know if it's going to help the season, but we'll see what happens.
We shall two-tone blue. I like it. Carlos, welcome in, my friend. And I apologize. We talked about you had a Texans podcast. I didn't ask you the name of it. Hello. Welcome into the studio, my friend.
Hey, how's it going, man? Thank you guys for having me on the show. I appreciate y'all. Got to represent my Texans a little bit here. Name of the podcast is the Just Fans Podcast.
Booyah. That is what I saw earlier, and I forgot to write it down. My bad. Go check out Carlos and Just Fans. Let's welcome in, of course, our guests. He's the Holy One himself, Justin Jesus Herrera. Welcome into the studio.
Yeah, and it's not talking about Jesus. It's actually talking about my underwear. But I will say this, my friend Ben Troupe, man, I remember playing you on Madden the first year that Vince Young was there because I love Vince Young so much. And I remember Ben Troupe. And to see the guy that I played Madden with, I'm starstruck. I really am. It's cool to see you, man. It's really cool.
Hey, long as I didn't mess up your season. I mean, the fantasy football was really trying to get its wings back then, and being able to, Nashville ain't no big time market type city, but being able to go, I'm a hat guy, as you guys can see. I mean, I wear a bunch of Atlanta Braves fitted hats. I used to go get my fitted hats, and the guy looking at me, I'm like, "Can I get my hats?" He was like, "Hey, bro, you messed up my season." I said, "Listen to me. If you play with me on the game and I drop 4th and 6th and I mess up your fantasy, I apologize. But hey, man, it's good to be on. It's good to be recognized, man. To be on Madden for 5 years. I mean, my kids don't seem to care. That just make me seem much older than them. But hey, man, I'll take it. I'll take the compliments. I appreciate it.
They don't care because they can create their own players now. So go ahead,
Ben,
Justin,
just to shout you out, I got 1,000 yards with you.
Oh, listen.
There it is.
We needed you to be the OC then. I was like, hey, no, I'm sure. Move out the way. We got somebody that can get me to rock. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right. Well, first of all, Daniel Berry Sports Highlights says, yo, thank you so much for checking in. We appreciate you. Andrew LeDuc, Mr. Sophistication. Welcome into the studio, my friend.
Drinking the most sophisticated king of beers tonight, so just chilling.
As you should.
The king of beers. Wow, I haven't heard that one in a while. All right, well, let's get things started tonight. Before we do, let's pay those bills first. Don't forget, go to Underdog Fantasy. Use the promo code TSS. We're going to double that deposit up to $100. Make sure you go check us out. It's getting about that time, too. Best ball drafts. All kind of fun drafts starting up. So just get in there. Use that promo code. Free money. Hello. Also, don't forget, if you're looking for some championship bling, if you haven't gotten it yet, you better tighten up. But for next season, use Pro-Am belts. Nobody's got better championship bling than our boys from there. And don't forget, if you're watching on YouTube or whatever the hell you're watching on, do us a solid, hit us a subscribe, hit a like, get us a comment in. Little things stopping you from doing it. Big things popping for us when you do. All right, fellas, let's get it on. We're going to start tonight, as we always do. We have our Brian Scott, our injury expert, has a little segment. We're going to break things up a little bit throughout the show, but let's start out, and we're here about the Colts. Start your engines. We're in Indianapolis to ride some Colts into the season. We're Brian Scott with the Injured List podcast, giving his percent to the bench for the Indianapolis Colts. Who we got tonight, Brian?
Anthony Richardson, their star rookie quarterback, unfortunately played just 4 games and then suffered that season-ending grade 3 AC joint sprain to his shoulder that required surgery. Had some injury issues in college with a concussion in his knee, but they were thought to be behind him. Tough break for his rookie campaign. Now, assuming that surgery went well, along with his recovery, we should see him ready to go this year. With the caveat, though, is that injury and that surgery tend to have a very high failure rate amongst us average folk. I'm hoping he doesn't follow suit. For that reason, I have to give him a 25% chance to bench. Man, that's a tough one to bounce back from. Jonathan Taylor, despite a thumb ligament injury that required surgery, he was back playing just a few weeks later, and I was really hoping he was going to have a big breakout year last year after he finally got that nagging ankle chronic issue fixed. Then the Colts started playing mind games. It didn't translate to much success for him on the field. I look for him to prove that he's still got some gas in the tank. I give him a 10% score to the bench. And then Michael Pittman Jr., he had a shoulder injury, concussion last year that saw him miss some limited practice time. He also recently in OTAs suffered a knee contusion, but it seems like he's put all those injuries behind him. Since entering the league, he's missed some time with the calf and injury and surgery, 3 games in total and a game in 2022, but nothing serious. I give his percent to bench score 20%.
Not too shabby, to say the least. All right, my friend. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you so much, Brian. All right, fellas, get those flip-flops on. It's time for the Summer Rewind. All right, let's not keep our guests awaiting. Let's start out. We're going to start out with the Texans tonight. Let's talk about these Texans and what they did in their offseason. Just to kind of sum up a little bit, they've lost Devin Singletary. Malik Collins is gone. Michael Dieter also. Blaine Cashman. Few more pieces on this defense were gone, but added some major parts as well. Daniel Hunter on the edge. Stephon Diggs. And again, just more addition of Joe Mixon, obviously when we're talking fantasy, and more additions to this defensive defense, which is a good thing because it seems like their offense is already set. In the draft, no first round pick. In the second round, again, going after the defense with Kamara Lattister, I'm not even saying that right, from Georgia at cornerback. So a lot of good things from these Texans, but let's go to our expert in the house, Carlos. Let's go to you. Sum up the Texans offseason in 3 words or less, and then expand on it for me.
3 words or less. The future is here. Future is here. That's all I could say about that from summing it up. Honestly, do you want me to keep saying more or just 3 words?
Yeah, just expand on that thought. Yeah, you're good.
The future is here. I think that this is a very young team on the roster right now. We did get the Texans did get some pieces that they needed. You mentioned Kamari Lassiter. That's one. There's been a lot of good reports for him out of the OTAs, and then a little. I know training camp just started. They're looking to see if he's going to be that that CB2. Opposite of Derek Stingley, who's a CB1, but it's looking in that direction because honestly, to me the biggest concern is that CB2 spot. But Kamari Lassiter, which was it wasn't a first round pick for the Texans. They didn't have one this season, this draft. This is the guy that they took, and so they're looking to make him the CB2 guy, and they have a few other guys, CJ Henderson, Jeff Okuda, but those are guys that are coming over from different teams. So honestly, it looks like Kamari Lassiter is going to be doing that starting CB2 spot. I think that D'Amico Ryans and Nick Caserio addressed what was needed for the Texans last season. Devin Singletary did what he could, obviously, and he did pretty well. Took the ball and ran with it. Unfortunately, Dameon Pierce last season, this system wasn't for him. He just couldn't get a hold of this system, and so the zone running scheme. So Devin Singletary took over. Now Devin Singletary's gone. Texans got Joe Mixon, which is, was an amazing addition, was a great offensive piece for the Cincinnati Bengals. Now with the Texans helping out CJ Stroud and the offense. And then, what I meant with the future is here you got guys like Tank Dell, who is coming back from injury, who almost was on the verge of having or surpassing 1,000 yards last season. I think he ended it at 700 something. I can't remember the number right off the bat. And you got Nico Collins, who just got extended by the Texans, who was, I think, 3 yards short of 1,300 yards last season. And then, so you had a pretty decent, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. You know what? Let's add Stephon Diggs into that mix too. Why not, right? Now you're giving your superstar quarterback in the making some weapons that he needs. And of course, did I mention that that the Texans added Joe Mixon? Yeah. And you can't forget about Dalton Schultz in the mix as well. So now somebody's got to be open, guys. Somebody's going to be open. Somebody definitely is going to be open, whether you're putting Stephon Diggs against CB1s, you're putting Nico maybe against CB2s, and then you got Tank Dell against CB3s. Guys, that's kind of like a mismatch somewhere. Somebody's going to be open for CJ Stroud. And, of course, if not, you still got Dalton Schultz. You still have Joe Mixon there in the mix. And then, hopefully Dameon Pierce is able to pick up this zone scheme this offseason. Reports say he's looking pretty good. So, hey. And then Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson, who just bulked up a few pounds. On paper, this team is legit.
On paper, it looks legit, to say the least. The future is here. I like that. I also like the puns that we throw in here, that Singletary took the ball and ran with it. Joe Mixon in the mix. Carlos bringing the thunder tonight. All right, let's move on to Ben. We're going to talk about these Tennessee Titans, who, by the way, I remember distinctly being down in Miami for America's team and walking out that damn stadium because I had a long ride back to Orlando thinking that game was over. And oh my God. All right, let's talk about the key losses. Unfortunately, Derek, the big dog Henry, now no longer with it. That was like the identity of the Titans, and he is no longer there. Some pieces on the defense as well. Added, of course, though, Calvin Ridley and Tony Pollard to the mix here for offense. So could be interesting. Let's see, of course, what Will Levis develops into. But, definitely has some weapons to throw the ball around to. And then, of course, added some key pieces back to the defense as well. For the draft, well, they went for the big tackle to protect Will with J.C. Latham out of Alabama. And then, again, going more defense in the draft. All right, Big Ben, what's the deal, my friend? Give me 3 words or less for the Titans and expand on it for me.
They spent money. And the thing and to expound on that is 2 years ago, Rand Carthon, former teammate of mine down there at the University of Florida, becomes the first, African-American GM in Titans history. He had no money to spend. None. I'm talking about zero. But you just mentioned it, Commissioner. I mean, yeah, you got rid of Derrick Henry. He's getting a little, getting long in the tooth. We add Tony Pollard, a guy that was a bell cow over there at Dallas. Calvin really goes from the Jacksonville Jaguars. He go from the two-tone, whatever they got down there, pewter and whatever. No, I think that's Tampa, to up here to the two-tone blue. So now you got Calvin Ridley, you got DeAndre Hopkins, you got Tyler Boyd, with Traylon Burks coming off the bench. And for those of you saying, why does that matter? Their wide receiver coach, his name is Tyke Tober. And if you don't know who he is, he coached me my junior year in Florida. But on his resume, he coached some bums. He coached guys like Anquan Bolden, Eric Mose, Lee Evans, Demarius Thomas, Eric Decker, Emmanuel Sanders, Odell Beckham, just to name a few. So he kind of going to get them guys right? But Keith Murray Jr. coming up, we bring him over. We Chidobe Awuzie, so we're gonna add to that defensive backfield. But when you talk about a guy like Will Levis, because I'm doing my best to talk about him last. If Will Levis can do his best Brock Purdy impression and not mess anything up, Tate's got a shot to be good. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to win the division. But, yeah, C.J. Stroud, he do his thing up there in Houston. We talked about that freak earlier and the injuries with Anthony Richardson down there in Florida. And, Trevor Lawrence got his own bank down there in Jacksonville. You know, it's called Lawrence Bank and Trust. All that money they just gave him. I like Brian Callahan. I like what he's going to do on offense. He's going to find a way, to get matchups. You know, with D Hop and Traylon Burks and Calvin Ridley and Tony Pollard. You talk about Jerome. J.C. Latham. I think the thing about this Titans team is going to be this. The biggest worry about the Titans is identity. No Mike Vrabel, you do not know what the identity, because when they had him, you know what you get. Smash mouth defense, run the ball on offense. You knew what you was getting. Now, I mean, are they going to try to go finesse? They're going to try to go, spread the and I'm going to go ahead and say it. Yeah, the Titans got the worst quarterback in the division. Yep, yep. And he got more years than C.J. Stroud and Anthony Richardson, but he's the worst quarterback in the division. I'm going to go ahead and say it. He's a default. And who was his backup? Mason Rudolph. My goodness. I mean, it's hard to find good ones out there these days. But I do like the fact that they spent money. I do like the fact that they filled holes. Can Tony Pollard play football outside of Dallas? Is Calvin Ridley going to really be trying to get back against his old team, even though the Jags ain't really his old team, even though he played for him last year? I like what the Titans did. I mean, they went out there, they filled some holes, they addressed. But because Houston is ahead of schedule, who the hell told them to be good? What the hell's going on in Houston? And the thing about the Colts is, we'll see. But I like my Titans because we're a couple of years removed for the Titans running the AFC South. Now, it hasn't been that as of late. But I like the new additions. I like going out there and addressing the offensive line. Offensive line for Alabama. They really, really big, and they really, really nasty, really, really mean, can really, really play football. Jeffrey Simmons, I'm saying it right now. Chris Jones, they got him as the number one D tackle in the world. I don't know. Y'all might want to turn the table and look at Jeffrey Simmons. He's a bad man. And both of them went to Mississippi State, so all they do is eat food and grow large people out there in Mississippi, obviously. But I like my Titans. I like what they was able to address in the offseason. I like what they did with the draft. They're obviously trying to protect Will Levis. But new coaches usually go through, growing pains and learning curves. I hope that we are ahead of. I hope that Brian Callahan go take D'Amico Ryans out to dinner and say, "Hey man, what the hell did you do last year to make y'all do what y'all did?" But I like the Titans' chances, man. Like I said, the AFC South is one of those divisions that is up for grabs every year. I think that the Titans addressed what they needed to address. I think they filled some holes they need to be filled. And I just think that if they can find a way to have a strong identity in the passing game with a complementary running game, get off on third down, they got a shot. But once again, C.J. Stroud, man, what the hell, man? God, I just don't want him to be that good that fast. Anthony Richardson is a mutant at quarterback, if you ever seen him before. And Trevor Lawrence got real nice hair and a lot of money. So, we'll see what happens, man. But I do like my Titans, man. Like we did in the offseason, like we did in the draft. We'll see if that bowl some wins, come September.
Yeah, the more you guys, and we'll go around the room a little more, but it's interesting. This is a very interesting division to see who's going to step up out of it. And I will say, disclaimer, if you're skinny, beware of Alabama, according to Ben Troupe. All right, let's go on to our next team. Let's talk about those Jaguars, since I sprung that on LeDuc right at the early portion before we started. Key losses: Calvin Ridley. Say it again. Lost some Rayshon Jenkins at safety and some players on the defense and some key parts on defense. Key additions, though, they did add Gabe Davis, so that was their replacement for Calvin Ridley. Gabe Davis, a great athlete, but let's see how that plays out in Jacksonville. Oh, and of course, Mac Jones is now on the Jaguars, so just want to throw that out there. Added Mitch Morris at center as well, and a couple pieces on defense. Obviously, in the draft, Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU. Another receiver, maybe he's the Calvin Ridley replacement. We'll see about that. All right, LeDuc, give me 3 words or less on the Jags and expand on it for me.
My 3 words are fits right in for multiple reasons, because it feels like with all the people they lost and the additions they made, they filled with very similar guys. I will say with the wide receiver core, though, I feel like they actually now have as a fly is on my face. They now have some identity and roles to the receivers. I felt like last year between Kirk and Ridley and Zay Jones, there was a lot of the same kind of styles and play, but now between Kirk, the rookie Brian Thomas Jr., and Gabe Davis, I think they can now have dedicated kind of specialties on the field when they can run them out 3 at a time. Evan Ingram can be out there, do his thing. Yeah, and I do have to touch on Mac Jones because I am a Patriots fan. You know what? Mac Jones going to Jacksonville fits right in to be in Jacksonville. That's the other reason I use those words, because it's the perfect place for him to go walk around with fake swagger like he earned something he has not earned yet. It's perfect in Jacksonville. Hang out down there all you want, buddy. Enjoy yourself. To the running backs, though, look, here's the thing. People are getting on Travis Etienne for the start he had last year and then saying he fell off. I don't think it's a coincidence that Trevor Lawrence got off to a slow start and then got hot as the year went on. But that's only if you're looking at the stats. If you look at the situation of the games they played last year, there was a ton of – they basically worked themselves into playing from behind for the whole second half of the season. Their defense collapsed on them. Their offensive line ended as the worst offensive line in the league. So we basically got – I remember having Trevor Lawrence on my team watching those games. Trevor Lawrence, the first half of those games, got 0 fantasy points for me pretty much. Then in the second half, all of a sudden, he ends up with 15 to 20 because he's just throwing the ball all over the place. That obviously cut into Travis Etienne's production. So I have him as a top 10 running back this year in fantasy. I'll jump to that just quickly. So Travis Etienne, I think, with a more balanced offense this year and a slightly better offensive line, I have the Jaguars finishing around 8-9, 9-8. And like you said, this division is totally up for grabs. I could see this division being won at 9-8 this year.
Oh, you're skipping segments. The predictions are later. The fantasy is later. Let's go, bro. Tighten up. Read the whatever you call it. All right, let's go. Shoshi, whatever we call it. All right, let's move on. Let's go to the Colts, which our friend Justin is glad to come in and help us out with. Key losses. I mean, what's funny is when I went, obviously we're doing this with each division. I looked at the Colts and I was like, wait, what? They they lost 3 people only: Minshew, Moss, and edge rusher Jacob Martin, and they added 2 people: Raekwon Davis and Joe Flacco. I guess they're good. The edge they drafted, the first round of the draft they drafted edge rusher Latua. I totally messed that up. And Adani. Whatever. I can't even speak tonight. Apparently, Justin, give me 3 words or less on the Colts and expand on it for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's time to go. I know that's 4 words. I could have shortened it down, but I really think you hit it right on the head with that one. I mean, honestly, they rewarded a lot of their players. They re-signed Michael Pittman. They re-signed DeForest Buckner. They got a lot of guys there that they feel confident in, and they just said, hey, we're going to stick with it. We're going to stick with the program here. Shane Steichen did a hell of a job last year kind of piecing together everything after Anthony Richardson went down. And it's really it's time to show what everybody's been looking forward to. I think everybody got a taste of what Anthony Richardson was last year, and they were like, we want more. Like, this guy is good. Like, he threw 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He ran for 4 touchdowns. He only gave us 3 games, but I mean, I had him in fantasy last year, and I'll tell you what, one of the games he was out for a whole half, he still gave me 20 points. Like, that's insane. That's insane. And I was just like, I couldn't even be mad at him because I was just like, obviously you can't be mad at him for getting injured, but like, I was just like looking at him, I was like, I got 20 points. What do I care at this point? Like, I still made out pretty good. But yeah, I mean, it's really just time to show what's up with that team. Shane Steichen obviously has a good program in there. And like I said, with rewarding his guys, he obviously has the confidence to go forward with the people that he added. I think Adonai Mitchell is going to be phenomenal for system because he's a high point type of guy. He's a guy that you don't really want to body because he's bigger than you and he's faster than you. So, you look at some of his Texas tape and you're just like, he's getting by a lot of these corners. And then when the corners are sticking with him, he's just high pointing these balls because he's too big for these guys. He's got too much of a vertical leap. So I think he's going to be excellent as kind of like that deep ball threat, that guy to really just throw it up there and just track it down. And then one guy, Josh Downs is going to be phenomenal in the slot. I think this defense can be good. I really do think this is the division that's going to be the most exciting because everybody has weapons. I mean, even, Ben was talking about Will Levis and everything. Yeah, he's the worst quarterback, but he's still on a scale of the NFL, a pretty decent option to have. And he's got a lot around him. So this is going to be the most exciting division as far as like shootouts and good games divisionally. I'm a 49er fan. I'm excited to watch the AFC South.
Yeah, and if you like playing fantasy, you better get yourself some AFC South players in the mix because it could be some big scoring points going throughout this season. But yeah, like you said, hit it nail on the head. I was just surprised going through all these teams, and the Colts by far are the team that made the least amount of moves. So very confident going into the season. Of course, that depends on Anthony Richardson's health. Excuse me. All right. We're going to move on and do our fantasy quiz show. Before we do that, we got another percent to the bench from Brian, and this time it's on the Titans. We're visiting the fun state of Tennessee to talk about the Tennessee Titans. We got our cabin up in the Smoky Mountains. Gotta love it. We are here with Brian Scott, the Injured List podcast, giving his percent to the bench for the Titans. What we got tonight, Brian?
All right, quarterback Will Levis, however you want to say it. He missed some time last year with both a high ankle sprain and a foot injury. Despite this, he did put up some good numbers for his rookie campaign. He's not a stranger to playing hurt, however. He got pretty beat up behind a horrible Kentucky offensive line with numerous minor injuries. So I don't see him sitting down much entering year two. Many describe him as a tough QB, willing to take hits and make plays. I think his percent to bench score of 20% is mostly because he's probably going to play injured or hurt to some degree without saying anything because he wants to make a good impression. Tony Pollard, running back, he was quoted as saying that it took much of last season for him to get back into gear after having gone through an ankle injury and fracture the previous year. And after a nice performance in week 11, it looked like he was going to do some good, and then he kind of just fell off again. He hasn't had much work or missed much work in the 2 years prior, and his numbers were even close to the year that he injured his ankle. I give his percent to bench score of 15%. Maybe he was right. Maybe this is a bounce back year for him. We'll see how he does. DeAndre Hopkins, he's had many injuries throughout his career, which have seemed to catch up with him in recent seasons, which culminated in a torn MCL that caused him to miss the remaining part of the season. Last year, he dealt with ankle injuries early in the season, along with some injuries he dealt with off-the-field issues, which may have contributed to the decline. I give him a percent to bench score of 25%.
All right. Gotta love it, my friend. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
All right.
All righty. Thank you so much, Brian. Go check out the Injured List podcast hosted by Brian Scott. Okay, we're about to play Fantasy Quiz Show. Ben Troupe versus Carlos. LeDuc, I was going to add you, but then I remembered I'd sent you the answer, so you're out. We got mano y mano anyway. Makes it a little more fun. Justin, tonight, just so you know, I turned the loop off your soundboard. We're good, and I'm hands-free tonight, so we're all on the same page. We're good to go. Fellas, this is how the game works. It's just set up just like Family Feud, where I'll ask a question out loud. You'll say your name, and that'll recognize you as a buzzer. You'll give your response. If you get it correct, you will then hold the round of questions. You'll get 3 strikes, which for 3 wrong answers. If you get 3 strikes without closing it out, the other person gets a chance to steal it from you. Sound pretty simple?
Yes.
All right, we're good to go. Get your thinking cap on. It's time for the Fantasy Quiz Show.
There seems to be no sign of intelligence.
It's the Fantasy Quiz Show.
Justin Jefferson.
Justin Jefferson. It's gonna be a long game.
Don't worry, Brad. You'll be in soon to make up for that. All right, let's get things started tonight. Like I said, mano y mano. Ben versus Carlos. Top 6 answers on the board. Here is your question. Again, we're going AFC South history now. I'm looking for the persons, I should say, who have the most rushing touchdowns in AFC South history.
Carlos.
Carlos.
Let me see. I'm gonna go with Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry. That is correct, Carlos. He is numero uno on this list. Ben, I got your Titans fan card in my pocket right now. He's number one with 90 TDs. So, wow. What else you got, my friend?
I'm gonna go with Chris Johnson.
Chris C2K or whatever the hell it was. It's correct. I think I messed that all up. He is number 4 on this list. He has 50 touchdowns in AFC South history. All right, go ahead, Carlos. What else you got?
Okay. Eddie George. I don't know if that counts on that one.
Eddie George. Incorrect. Which surprised me too. I thought for sure he'd be on this list, but he is not. All right, you got the number 1 and number 4 answer, and you got 2 strikes left.
Arian Foster.
Arian Foster. Saying a little prayer at 54 touchdowns. He's 3rd on the list. What else?
I got 2, right? Yeah, I got 2 strikes. Okay. No, 1 strike. Yeah, 1 strike.
You have 2 strikes left. Yeah, you got
2 strikes left. There you go. Let's go with Maurice Jones-Drew.
MJD. That is correct. He's number 2 on this list with 68 and never answered my request to come on the show. All right, what else you got?
That's funny. I like that. All right. How many do I have left?
You got 2 answers left with 2 strikes. You're missing the number 5 and number 6 answer.
Marshall Faulk.
Marshall Faulk.
I was taking a long shot with that one. I was like, okay.
I mean, he's good running back. Just I don't think not enough time.
Not enough time on that one. Leonard Fournette.
Leonard Fournette.
Okay.
That was the 3rd strike, sir. Get it right in the soundboard area back there.
You're supposed to play the whole little clip.
Hey,
hold on.
The clip thing. Come on. Where's my judge at tonight? You want me to do it?
Hello? You play to win the game.
You do, and you did not win so far in the first round, Carlos. There are 2 answers left. Ben, you need just one of them. Do you got the answer?
I need just one.
You just need one.
Edgerrin James.
Edgerrin James.
Hello? You play to win the game.
Yeah, hit him up again with the same one. That is incorrect, my friend. Carlos, you take round 1. The remaining answers were Jonathan Taylor. He's number 40. He has 40 TDs. He's number 5 on the list. And I had to add a number 6 just in case, because all these guys were pretty popular. The number 6 one surprised me. Mr. Joseph Adai. He's number 6.
Okay.
I was like, what? After all those great running backs at AFC South, that was pretty surprising.
Oh, yeah.
I
did get a lot of touchdowns. So, yeah.
He did. He was definitely touchdown to die for sure. All right, let's get on with it. Carlos got 1 round in the books. Let's go to round number 2 and top 5 answers on the board here. Here is your question. I'm looking again, all-time history, and I'm looking for the most caught touchdowns in AFC South history.
Oh, okay.
Man.
Ben, do you say Ben?
How many? DeAndre Hopkins.
DeAndre Hopkins. He is on the list. He's number 4. He would 60.
What am I saying? Marvin Harrison.
All right. Oh, Marvin Harrison. All right, getting a little light bulb going on. Marvin Harrison's number 3 on this list with 66.
Reggie
so you got 3 and number 4. Reggie Wayne.
That's
Numero uno on the list. Reggie Wayne, 82 with touchdowns. So you got number 1, number 3, and number 4. You're missing 2 and 5. You ain't got no strikes.
Andre Johnson.
Andre Johnson. This list showing it's all about the U. He has 70 touchdowns. He's number 2 on the list. You're missing number 5. You got no strikes, so you got a few chances to get it.
Jimmy Smith.
Jimmy Smith.
Good.
No, Jimmy, I will not pay for you to come on my podcast, and he is not on this list. All right, what else you got, Ben?
Man, I said AFC South. Somebody from the Jags. I got Reggie Wayne, I got Marvin Harrison, I got Andre Johnson. Wow. Derek Mason.
Derek Mason. Ooh.
That's a good guess.
Good guess.
I got it if Ben doesn't.
Oh, Carlos is
I'm ready.
Let's see. God, man,
one more strike.
Got a problem.
No pressure.
I got D-Hop, I got Andre, I got Reggie, and I got Marvin, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. And some Luther Vandross.
Dang it. I know it's gonna be wrong. Keenan McCardell.
Keenan McCardell.
We gave him the friggin' game. In my opinion, that sucked.
Well, Carlos, do you got the fifth one?
I'm pretty sure I do because this one hurts. Because this is, I'm going to say T.Y. Hilton because he scored the most in NRG Stadium.
T.Y. Hilton.
Hey, Carlos, first off, say his real name. It's T.Y. Houston, baby.
That's
Every time he came over, I was like, they had Jonathan Joseph, which I respect, the most. I love Jonathan J-Joe, but when they would put him up against T.Y., I was like, it's over. Shit's over.
I should have known, man. Three Colts receivers, and 2 Texans receivers. I should have known.
T.Y. Hilton was secretly one of my favorite fantasy players, only because when he scores, I get to do the little T.Y. dance. I love T.Y. Hilton, man. Come on now. All right, let's get on to a subject maybe Ben knows a little more about because you down 2-0. You really need to come up this one.
I forgot all about T.Y., man.
It's going to be a sweep if you don't step up here. All right, so here we go. Third round, top 5. I got 5 answers on the board. Here is your question. I'm still in AFC South history, and I'm still going to ask for receiving touchdowns, but I want to know in all-time history who has the most receiving touchdowns caught by a tight end.
Oh. Tight end. Top 5 of them, top 5?
Top 5?
Yes, sir.
Ooh. Oh, that's gonna be a tough one.
No tight end you for Ben Troupe, apparently.
I'll try to jump in. I'll try to jump in. I know one off top. God dang it.
All right, who you got?
Dallas Clark.
Dallas Clark.
Man.
Dallas Clark actually number 1 on the list with 46. All right, who else you got? Like, damn, that's all I want to know.
Yeah, I mean, wait. Now, I know a bunch of them tight ends that came through there. I'm trying to see if one of them snuck in late. But this is just when they was in the AFC South. Correct?
You got it, just in the AFC South.
Okay. See, that's gonna take one. Wow. Kyle Brady.
Kyle Brady.
Dude.
Dang.
God dang it.
Mm.
God. I mean, he played for the Colts. The one year, what's his name out of North Carolina? Dang it. I can't think his name right now. I mean, 40-something. I mean, I don't know how many. I might have to give my boy some love. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Bo Scaife?
Bo Scaife.
He wasn't balling. I mean, I
thought that Justin Jefferson was going to be a long game.
Yeah. Oh my God, man!
Hey, Bo Scaife shout out right there.
Yeah,
Bo Scaife shout out.
Bo Scaife, we need to get him on the show. We need to reach out. There are people to reach out to him.
I mean, what? Evan Ingram?
Evan Ingram.
It's rough. we didn't.
The judge is a little delayed tonight.
It's really unfair.
It's my team.
Oh, wait, Ben.
I mean, outside of Dallas Clark, it wasn't. Oh my God!
Listen, you talked a lot. You talked a lot about going to Alabama and eating, but you left a lot of meat on this bone right here.
I did. And
Carlos, can you take a nibble to win the game?
I'm gonna say for the Mercedes Lewis.
Mercedes Lewis.
He's still in the league. He's still playing right now.
Mercedes Lewis, number 2 in all-time history with 33. Owen Daniels, number 3 on the list with 29. Guess who's next? Delaney Walker, number 4.
I
apologize,
Delaney.
Yep. Your boy is cussing you out right now. Jack Doyle. I don't know, maybe that's who you were thinking of. Play for the Colts. He's number 20. He had 24. He's number 5.
I forgot all about Delaney.
Jared Cook on that list?
Jared Cook ain't. Yeah, he made the list.
Not on the list. No, sir. Believe it or not. All right, well, gentlemen, great game. As always, you guys put in some great participation. But tonight, Carlos, you are our winner. Oh, I'm happy.
Give it big.
All right, my bad, Justin. The hands are off. My bad. All right, Carlos, congratulations. You're tonight's winner. Ben, I hate this dude do this to you because you're my boy and all that. But tonight, you are a loser.
Dumbass. Thank these. Dumbass.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Not a chance in this one, at least. All right, well, good job. I got swept tonight.
I did get swept. It happens. I mean, I feel bad for my type. Delaney, listen, I apologize. No, for real, because he was one of those guys that just tore it up when he got to the Titans. But when you think AFC South and division leaders, you ain't going to go much farther outside of Indianapolis. I don't know why I was looking outside of that, but my fault, Delaney. My fault, Mercedes Lewis. I think he's going to like year 37 this year. He's still playing.
I think I'll have my social media person, who's me, send a quick clip of you struggling with all those tight ends. So I've been sending it to Tight End U so everyone can make fun of you.
I apologize to my tight end. Listen, as a guy that played in the AFC South, all I remember was the no glove wearing Iowa beast known as Dallas Clark. He wore wristbands and no gloves. So he protected his elbows and could care less about his hands. But he caught everything from Peyton Manning. But my bad, Delaney and Owen Daniels. He was nice for them Texans too. And Mercedes, he probably drive a BMW and his name Mercedes. He's still out there getting time. Shout out to Mercedes Lewis, though, man. To do it for 19 years or however long it is.
Absolutely. All right. Well, congratulations, boys. Good game. We're going to go on to our next portion or our last portion. Before we do that, we got one more or another stop from Brian on the percent to the bench for the Jaguars. Live in Duval County, we got Brian Scott from the Injured List podcast here to give his percent to the bench for the Jacksonville Jaguars. What we got, Brian?
That's definitely a Florida reference. I have no idea what that means. Gabe Davis, wide receiver, had a PCL sprain the final game of last year. Should not be a factor heading into this season. He's missed some time in 2021 and 2022, only a couple games, and they were not from any major injuries. I give his percent to bench score 10%. Travis Etienne, he's well removed from that Liz Frank injury. That's a thing of the past. And although he had a chest injury last year, it was nothing serious. He didn't miss any time. I give his percent to bench score 5%. Christian Kirk, he sustained a season-ending core muscle injury that required surgery last season. It cut his season about 5 games short. Sounds like he was probably playing with that injury for a while before the season ended. So I think he's going to have a comeback year. He's going to try and repeat the 2022 season, which saw him have his best statistical year. I give his percent to bench score 15% just because he's coming off the injury. But otherwise, I think he's going to have a good year.
Well, we'll see. Christian Kirk all lined up in a slot, ready to go. Brian Scott, we appreciate you, and we'll see you next time on the Present to the Bench. All right, Brian, we appreciate you. Fellas, we talked about what was. Let's talk about what is and do some predictions. All right. Well, we start out with the Texans last time with our guests. Let's get let's get bounced back from the game. Let's talk about those Titans. Will obviously, the Titans last year, they were kind of that in between team in the middle, started getting hot towards the end, but definitely some interesting development, if you will, right in the season as the season was going on, but also struggle a little bit towards the real bottom part of the season as well. So really interesting to see how this team's going to play it out. But what do you think, my friend? Give me some predictions for these Tennessee Titans, and if you have some players you think might step up, let us know about it.
I do think Calvin Ridley is going to help Traylon Burks kind of take the next step. He's the guy that got drafted in the first round a couple of years ago. Hasn't been able to really find his footing yet. As I mentioned earlier, Ty Tober, the guy that coached me at Florida, one of the best, if not the best, receiving coach in the league, is going to get a lot out of that young man. But I think the thing about the Titans is, perception is not reality. Perception is, you spent some money, you was able to fill some holes. But three things in NFL football will either win you games or lose you games. You got to have an elite quarterback. You got to have a really, really good culture and team. And you got to have a really good coach. They got a brand new coach, question mark. Do they got a good team? We don't know. And Will Levis, he's middle of the road. I got to love Will Levis because he repped my Titans. I don't got to like it. But I do have to like rock with him. And because it's so many question marks on the team that with a brand new coach and a brand new scheme and a brand new way of doing things, the Texans got everybody thinking, hey, man, you can just plug guys in. CJ Stroud was good in college, right? Do you remember him? You remember Will Levis at Kentucky? Me neither. So I'm just saying, I just don't see it turning over as quickly as. And Derrick Henry filled a lot of holes. He was the key cog during the year that made everything go. Do I think guys like we talk about tight end Chigwozi Okonkwo? I think he got a shot to be really, really good. He's going to have to put on his best Evan Ingram impersonation. And I think Evan and Chiggs went to the same high school in the same city. Crazy.
Oh, wow.
I really think they did. But for my Titans, it's always a question mark with them is this. Jacksonville's always going to have buzz because they had the number one overall pick, and he's a franchise guy, right? This CJ Stroud kid, they win an offensive rookie of the year and defensive rookie of the year on the same squad, right? Anthony Richardson, if you can't get up for a guy like that, you don't like football players and you don't like football. This kid has it all. The thing about the Titans, they always fighting for two things: national relevancy, right? And just where do you fit in the AFC South? So I think they're going to be better than last year? Maybe. But at the end of the day, I got them winning 8 games, losing 9. I don't know who's going to come out of that division. Listen, they might be scratching and clawing in week 17 for who come out of that division. But I do like that they are putting pieces around Will Levis. They're trying to protect him in the draft and in free agency. You give him you give him a young running back. Nobody's going to. You don't replace Derrick Henry. Sorry, people. Just don't replace that. But you try to fill some holes. But I've seen too much of this when it comes to the Titans. And every time you expect the Titans to do something, they don't. When no one cares about the Titans, they can go out there and play a little better. But the AFC South has gotten really talented real fast. And I'm talking about the quarterbacks. And the thing about the Titans is, let's call it what it is. If CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, and Trevor Lawrence walking down the street, they would ask Trevor, CJ, and Anthony, who's your friend, dog? Who's your boy? They don't even know who Will Levis is. And that's life. And y'all know this. If you don't have elite quarterback play, you're not going to win in the NFL. Not going to win consistently. And Will Levis is the one that they put, they saying he can go out there and get it done. I got to see it. I don't want to hear about what happened against, commission against your Dolphins on Monday night. That's a fluke. That was a fluke. But I just 8 wins, maybe 8 wins at the least, 9 wins at the most. I don't see them getting double digit. Brian Callahan, I think his daddy's on the staff. Who cares? I just think for these Titans, when you had a shot to make yourself the dominant team, here come these other teams and quarterbacks. So 8 and 9, be on the lookout for Chigwoziem Okonkwo. I think Tyler Boyd can make some noise because he plays in the slot and he's going to get the worst corner or the slot corner on every other team. But unfortunately for my Titans, they got to stop other teams. And I just don't see that defense being able to stop Houston. Trevor Lawrence pissed off because people think he average and he got all that money. And may God help you, because that kid there, you don't wake up 6'5", 250 and can run 4.4 and jump out the gym, and you got Jonathan Taylor at running back, Michael Pittman at receiver. So sorry, Titans fans, man. It's gonna be talk a bunch of trash in quarter one, get drunk by quarter two. I ain't even watching the game by quarter three. That's how I see the season.
It's funny that you brought up Treylon Burks, and I actually forgot to mention. I was like, wait a minute, didn't they? I was like, wait, Tyler Boyd. I totally forgot to mention that. And that's an interesting piece for the Titans as well. And like you said it earlier, Will Levis could be as average as he wants, but I think Justin referred to that earlier. DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, now Tyler Boyd. I mean, not for nothing, I say it, on the show every now and again when you guys start getting on Tua that, with this offense. Like, I could get behind and throw 3,000 yards with all that talent surrounding. And I think the Titans are trying to emulate that a little in their own way. Obviously, Derrick Henry is going to be a big loss, but again, they've added some key pieces, and I think they'll at least be competitive, to say the least. Carlos, let's talk about your Texans. Get some predictions on the Texans that, again, we already know they were the new-ish last year. And CJ Stroud obviously came out game busters, much like Anthony Richardson, but stayed a little more healthier, I guess, as the season went on. Definitely some big pieces added to this team with Stephon Diggs. I mean, that's the big talk, and Joe Mixon as well. You mentioned Damian Pierce, a little bit of struggle in the prior regime, but let's see how he can spell Joe Mixon now. But some very interesting things, to say the least, about this Texans. Give me your predictions and what guys think will step out as far as for fantasy.
So for me, I had my Texans going in at 11-6 this season. So I feel like that's kind of like a trying not to be as biased analysis there. 11-6. I do, the big three the big ones that I had written down here that I feel like I think we can take on Baltimore. That I have a win on that one. I have a loss against KC. Detroit is one that I was iffy. I just to be on that side of I think that we're going to lose against Detroit. But aside from that, I think we're gonna beat Baltimore. I think we're gonna beat Miami as well. I think we split with the Colts. I think we can get I think we get Jacksonville. I think we beat Jacksonville both times. A win against New England. I'm gonna take the W against against Dallas. And I did say New England, Minnesota. I'm gonna take the W there, but I know the ones that the main three that the Texans have eyes that all eyes are on the Texans will be against Baltimore, KC. I want to say Detroit also, just because of the uniform scheme. Detroit's got that clean uniform, and so as a Texans fan, I'm going to be biased. I like our new unis also. I'm going to take the loss against Green Bay, and for our schedule. And surprisingly, this is a one. I'm going to take a loss against the New York Jets. Last season, the Texans took a loss against the New York Jets. I know it's a shocker, the Jets, because I don't know, something about that field, man. Something about that field doesn't strike me well. And the Texans last season, they had two games that I want to talk about real quick. I'm sorry, you guys probably gotta go. The Falcons and the Panthers games, and even the Jets games that were supposed to be on paper winnable games for the Texans, they ended up losing those three games. And I felt at that point was, I think, more of a struggle with Bobby Slowick our offensive coordinator, just because I think it was like, how much am I able to give CJ Stroud? And kind of there was a lot of conservative play calling. Believe me, I know. I watched Bill O'Brien for years, and watching him do those conservative calls, I was like, "Ooh, that feels very Bill O'Brien-ish." Except he didn't trade away any one of our receivers for nothing. But anyway, that's a different story. But then I was looking at, I felt it, and I was like, and I talked to my co-host as well. I was like, guys, this felt very forced. They were trying to force Damian Pierce, and obviously it wasn't working that well. And so the Texans lost those. So the Texans will have some trap games, I guess is what we want to call them, where they will lose some winnable games that they were supposed to be lose for whatever reason. And I think every team has that. You win you lose those winnable games. Like how did you lose? I think who was it? Was it the Raiders last year against KC or something like that? I think I can't remember off the top of my head. Or they beat KC or whatever, and you were wondering like what, but they're divisional rivals, so whatever, they get to see them twice a year. As far as stepping up, sorry, I gave you like a whole lecture of who I thought, but Texans 11-6 players that I think will step up this year. I feel like barring injury, all three receivers that the Texans have could potentially reach that 1,000 yards. Like really, it's almost like a pick of the litter, who pick your poison situation. I will say a dark horse though, a guy that's really impressed me. Tight end that the Texans got, Stover from Ohio State. Played with CJ Stroud 1 year, I believe. I think it was CJ's last year. Had a little bit of chemistry with him, and then I think doubled up on yards after CJ left the following year, and now Kate Stover's, and I think he looks, honestly, on paper, he's a scary looking dude. Like I would not, you walk in the hallway, you see Kate Stover, boom, you immediately go out that way. Like he's a scary looking dude. Farmer, where's that 87 tight end? I'm like, all right, he might be on that list that you're talking about years from now, the tight end list that we're talking about. But hey, look out for Kate Stover. Last season, one of my co-hosts, Rios, he predicted about Tank Dell. And he would go on podcasts and talk about Tank Dell, and we were like, okay, who's Tank Dell? But my co-host, being a huge U of H fan, knew all about Tank Dell, and Tank Dell ended up surprising a lot of people. And I'm thinking, my prediction would be, I think Kate Stover is a guy to look out for in fantasy. Obviously Dalton Schultz is tight end 1, but I wouldn't count out Kate Stover. That could be somebody that you might be able to use on fantasy, and another weapon for CJ.
Wow, that's good insight, my friend Carlos. Listen, at the end of the day, every summer we do the show, and somebody at some point gives us some name that we're like, what? And they end up blowing up. So that might be our time right here. Carlos might have nailed us with your boy there. I like that a lot. All right, well, let's get it on and move on. Justin, we'll go to you for the Colts. Obviously, there's some fantasy players to talk about on this team. What do you think? How do you think they'll finish up? And give me some guys you like.
Yeah. So barring Anthony Richardson having any setbacks, I think he's definitely going to be a top 10 quarterback. He looks jacked. He looks like he's been, rehabbing the shoulder well, which is good, because I thought, even though he is 6'5", this giant guy, I thought he was a little bit like on the thinner side last year, and I wasn't surprised he got hurt because he was very actively running the ball. But it looks like he's got a little bit more muscle on him, which is going to help him in the end. And then, I'm really excited about the weapons that they have. I like Jonathan Taylor. I don't think I have to sell you on him. Michael Pittman has very much top 10 feel to him as far as receiver goes. Like I was just saying, Adonai Mitchell, he's an interesting one. I'm not usually one to take deep receivers just because I don't like the whole feel of you've got to hit the big one or else you're a loser that week, fantasy wise. But I do like Josh Downs, and you can get him for just about free. Nobody seems to care. But this guy got 68 receptions last year, and I think that he could definitely be a weapon for a growing Anthony Richardson. He's going to make short passes easy, and kind of like Tank Dell was. Tank Dell, Josh Downs, and Jaden Reed were all cut from the same cloth last year. Nobody cared about them. And guess what? They all did big things in their first season. Jaden Reed's about to be the number one receiver in Green Bay. Tank Dell is, in my book, the number one receiver in Houston because he's the only one that Stroud wanted on his perfect offense. That tells me everything I need to know about that. When a quarterback says, yeah, I want this guy on my perfect offense because I'm building it with everybody around the league, that means that he means a little bit more in that offense to Stroud than a Nico Collins who's going far before him, or even a Stefan Diggs who's going before them. And they've arguably Stefan Diggs has made his place in fantasy. He deserves it. But Nico Collins is one of those guys that kind of had more success when Tank Dell went out. So I don't know. I look at that, I read the tea leaves with that, and I go, maybe if Tank Dell does rehab really well, it might be a really good year to draft him. And then as far as the tight end room goes, it's kind of really Jelani Woods and nobody else. But Jelani Woods had like this problem with consistent hamstring injuries. He was out last year, just about all of last year. He's a freak athlete. The dude is 6'7". And he moves really well too. I think he had like a 4.6 40 at 6'7". He's not really gangly and unathletic. He's actually pretty like fluid with his movements. And obviously 6'7", you could just throw it up there and somebody can high point it like a basketball player catching an alley-oop in the end zone. So I would not be surprised if he's a guy that kind of has maybe like a Robert Tonyan type season where he has this breakout 10 touchdown year. And guess what? Fantasy-wise, he's free. He's literally at the last pick of just about every round. You can go 22 rounds and he'll still be there because nobody really believes in the guy. And I'm just like sitting here going, guys, dude, 6'7", touchdown machine, no competition at tight end, a scheme that was legitimately gone to the tight end before, and we're just going to leave him out there. Okay, yeah. No freebies. No more freebies. I'm not giving any freebies anymore. If you're not going to take it, don't come to my yard sale.
I like you. A lot of interesting pieces. Like I said, we've said it all show. The whole AFC South is interesting. Let's go finish up with the Jaguars. Obviously they were kind of up and down last year too. You mentioned it a little bit earlier, Duke, when you brought up the inconsistencies on the play. What do you think about them this year? Give me some guys you like.
Yeah, so I did jump the gun earlier. Like I said, I think they're going to finish around 9-8 or 8-9. Look, I think Travis Etienne right now, I have him as a top 10 running back. You can get him in like the middle of the third round, sometimes the fourth round right now at his current ADP. So Etienne, an absolute steal right now. Tank Bigsby, he's going real late in drafts. But the fact of the matter is he's going to be mixed into the offense here and there. And then if Etienne goes down, Bigsby is an immediate handcuff to jump right into the flex and RB2 mix. When it comes to the wide receivers, Christian Kirk, I'm going to be moving him up in my rankings. He's currently like wide receiver 28 for me, but I honestly see him more like around the 20 to 19 range. So I like Christian Kirk. And then like Brian Thomas with his size and his physicality, being a rookie, I still have him down there around wide receiver 52 right now, but it wouldn't shock me if he after he gets some time to settle in, if he sneaks into that top like 30, 35 range. So keep an eye on Brian Thomas. Gabe Davis is going to do Gabe Davis things. He's going to have his one or two, three breakout games where everyone's going to be spending all their fab on him. But that's going to be his role in this offense, and that's exactly what this offense needs. Trevor Lawrence, a top 15 quarterback, I think, and then Evan Ingram, same thing, another value guy right now, top 10 tight end. The tight end position every year is going to continue to be like it is, a crapshoot, and Evan Ingram should be a guy that you can take advantage of there.
Yeah, I think we've mentioned it with every tight end. The AFC South seems to be some sort of injury history. Even Dalton Schultz, you mentioned your boy Stover. I mean, Dalton Schultz got a history of injuries himself. So yeah, I mean, a lot of interesting pieces. And look, we got a tight end in the house while we talking about him. Can't believe it. All right, well, thank you guys. Appreciate you guys for coming on. Before we close out, we got one last segment from our boy Bry. Present to the bench on the Texans. We are here in Houston, where everything is bigger here in Texas, of course, but nothing bigger than Brian Scott from the Injured List podcast, Percent to the Bench. What do we got for the Houston Texans?
All right, Joe Mixon. His injury history is not minor. In 2020, he missed the majority of the season with the Liz Frank injury, but since then, he's actually not missed much time at all. And in fact, he did not miss any time last year due to injury. His time in the league has likely taught him how to prepare and maintain his body, and that bodes well for him as he continues to trek further into his career. I give him a percent to bench score of 20%. It would have been higher just a few years ago. However, he has curbed his trajectory in a good way. Tank Dell, the running back, he fractured his ankle on a goal line play in week 5 last year. And if not for that, he might have had a 1,000-yard season. He had season-ending surgery and should be ready to go this year. I expect him to have a bounce-back campaign despite this setback. I give him a percent to bench score of 10%. And Stephon Diggs, his production last year in Buffalo was way down, and the Bills claimed it was by design, but some conspiracy theories have been floating around that he might have been dealing with some type of core muscle injury or abdominal oblique injury. Apparently, he had a similar issue that plagued him in 2021, which saw him limited in some practice time and on injury reports for a couple of weeks heading into the playoffs that year. Despite these conspiracy theories, I couldn't really find anything proving that he did have an injury or that anything that should relegate him to the bench. I give his percent to bench score 5%.
Sounds good and duly noted. Brian does not buy into conspiracy theories. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate that. Brian, appreciate you. We'll see you next time. All right. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Let's close things out with our guests. Carlos, we'll start with you. Let everybody know where they can follow, subscribe, and get all of your great content, my friend.
Appreciate you. So the what I want to promote now is just our podcast, Just Fans Podcast, Houston local podcast here in Houston. Follow us on our X or Twitter, whatever Elon Musk is calling it today, at Just Fans 22. Same tag for our YouTube channel. Give us a subscribe at Just Fans 22. Now, if you want, that's more of us hanging out, talking mess, whatever. But if you want a more serious, a little bit more analytical, we are part of another podcast, which we make for the R. Esquina Podcast Network, uplifting Latino voices in the NFL. And that is at Bring on the Blitz Podcast. So it's at B Blitz Pod, at B Blitz Pod. Follow us there on our X also. And that's where you can check us out. And we'll be having I think, Ben, I don't know if you're familiar with him, John McClain soon on our Bring on the Blitz. He's a reporter for, he does stuff for the Titans and then for the Texans as well. Yeah. We'll be having him soon.
I thought you were about to pull out a Bruce Willis reference. There. I'm like, oh, snap. Here we go. All right, go follow, subscribe, get all of Carlos's great content. Thank you so much for coming in. Ben, I already know where to follow you at, but you got not one, but 2 podcasts premiering right here on our channel. One premiered last night, and you got another one coming up. Let everyone know about your good stuff and where you follow, subscribe, and get your great content.
Well, yeah, I mean, no weddings in the fall. I mean, it's gonna be talking all things, college football, NFL football at No Wedding, in the fall. I mean, follow us on Twitter. I mean, 84 Reasons. If you guys like to talk, just to hear about these college athletes, that's my NIL podcast that I have through the University of Florida, my alma mater. And the Being True podcast it's coming to a YouTube near you real soon, to where we talk so much sports and all the time. Sometimes I just want to holler at you. So I'm gonna get the commissioner on, and we're gonna be talking live. He gonna be like, but I want to talk about my Miami Dolphins. I said, we are not allowed to talk about real football teams because I'm an Atlanta Falcons fan. You're not allowed to talk about real football teams. You put on there, but yeah, man, 84 Reasons. No Weddings in the Fall, Being True podcast. You can follow me at Being True 84 on all social media outlets. But I'm looking forward to coming on with you guys as much as I possibly can. I think that these spaces are very, very important. And you guys validate the fact that when my lady be like, "Why guys, y'all could just talk sports all day?" I said, we're not allowed to do it all day right now. We're trying to get that legislated. If that gets legislated, we will be able to talk it more. But I do appreciate these spaces, man. You guys let me know that listen, as my friend said, Troupe, you still in that sports weirdo space? Hell yeah. And I'm going to be here until it goes away. Yes, I'm going to be over here in this cool. But yeah, man, no weddings in the fall. Being True podcast, 84 Reasons. And I look forward to coming on you guys' podcast as well.
We appreciate you being in tonight. Lots of fun with both of you. Once again, we appreciate AFC South. It's going to be fun to watch for sure. All right, guys, from me to you and for our boys here, we appreciate you. We'll see you next week. I'll be on a cruise, so Justin will be hosting next week. We'll look forward to seeing you guys then. We appreciate you, and we are out.